So how we can embed images in a proper way and videos on the web page. And we ended that class by talking about the backdrop filter effect that we see oftentimes happening on images or videos. I hope if any of us have a question or questions to ask based on that very class, you can say it now so that we can make it clearer for you. I always tell you, we are here for your own good. Yeah. So this particular tutorial and the subsequent ones, they are designed to help us advance our skills. All right. So even if you don't remember to ask your questions now, you can always reach out to me personally. You know how to do that. Okay. So in the previous class, when we talked about Flexbox, one of us asked a question, what is this Flexbox all about? Why do we even talk about it or use it? We use it, one, to make our page responsive. And the difference between the Flexbox itself is that it is a one-dimensional layout in CSS, unlike grid layout that is two-dimensional layout in CSS. What I mean is that in Flexbox, you can say flex direction to go only on the column or only on the row at a time. But then with grid, you can adjust your yes, Sachin, it will be on YouTube very soon. I will check this after this class to know if it has been uploaded. But I know the technical team, we are working on it, to adjust it and make sure it is appealing for you to listen to. So it will be posted soon. Now, so grid, as I said, is adjustable on both rows and columns at the same time. On both rows and columns at the same time. So we use it to also achieve a responsive layout in our website. May I also state at this point, in web development, we've been talking about HTML and CSS. Remember when we started, we used the HTML to build the basic structure, like the skeletal framework of the website. And then we use CSS to style it. Remember what the name CSS means, cascading style sheet. And then in talking about interactivity or functionality, we make use of JavaScript. We'll soon go into that. However, I want also to let you know that in web development, there are frameworks one can also use to build websites. When I talk of frameworks, I'm not talking of things like WordPress. Some of you may have been hearing about it. I'm not talking of things like that, but some framework that contains both the HTML and CSS as well as JavaScript that you could use to develop your website. One of them is Vue, another is Angular, and the other is React. So these are three basic JavaScript frameworks for front-end development. When we started, we said we knew I mentioned it that we have both front end and back end. You could be a very good back end developer, and you could be a guru in front end development. Whichever style, whichever part of the web development you want to measure in, it is all left for you. What is important is for you to remain focused and check for the things around you that can help you gain hands-on experience in that area of web development you've chosen. So I will share my screen now so that you see what I'm doing, and we go into the business of the day, talking about grid. Okay, guys, yeah, stick to the now. Yeah. So this on the left side here. So the entire screen now is showing our previous class on multimedia tags. Multimedia tags. Now, thank God you also saw I already created in that previous class a HTML file grid layout. Grid layout. I will go ahead now and create another grid layout for CSS. So a CSS file named grid layout. So why inside the CSS is gonna be grid.css. Okay, grid layout. You should bear the same corresponding name. Grid layout dot css. So we're not going to stretch today's class. Just go on and achieve something reasonable. So it's not about the time spent, but the content we're able to achieve. So inside the grid, with a shortcut, let's get the HTML basic structure. Here, I'm naming it as grid layout. Grid layout. Guys, I hope you are following. Eugene, I hope you can hear me. At least I haven't heard your voice since we started the class. Okay. Gabriel.
Yes, yes, I'm listening.
All right. Um, I would want us to achieve two basic things. The first one now, here in the body, I would want us to create using the main tag. Inside the main tag, I want us to name it grid item. Let's create classes, different classes, and name it grid item. For instance, you already know the shortcut of creating a div with a class name. So you press dot and write the class name, grid item. Now, inside this one, I would want you to answer box 1. So I want to copy this into other places. Remember, when we talked about Flexbox, we did something like this. But in that one, I used lorem to write. I wrote with lorem. Some see a grid as being so rigid that it is not flexible. That is when you don't know how to use it. But when you really know how to use grid, you will come to appreciate how dynamic grid layout is. And you even prefer to use it to CSS, to Flexbox, I mean. So I'm changing this content. Let this be box 1, box 2, and so on. See the last one. This is going to be 7. And this is 8, 9, 10. Okay, and this is 11. Maybe make it 12, unless the Judas is gone. Okay, so now we've created these elements. Meanwhile, let's open it with a live server as usual. So open with live server. You see it appear like this. Let me copy it and still open it with Google Chrome, my choice of browser. So Google Chrome. All right, so it's appearing like this. And as usual, I would like to reduce the size of the screen. Sometimes I tell you to break the screen. Of course, you should know you don't need to break it literally. All right, let's get this mail and style it. I hope we know we're missing something. We've not linked our external CSS layout. We've not linked it. I would have wanted us to use internal CSS. I think let's just use internal CSS since we will not be doing much here. So I'm using internal CSS to style instead of that external file we created. We will still use it. We will still make use of that external file. All right. So for this part, what I want us to get is the main tag. What do I want to do with this main tag? Remember that when you display an item as flex or as grid, the effect of that display is seen on the direct children of that element. On the direct children of that element. For instance, watch what happens if I say display flex. You see how these items appears line by line by the side of this element, by the side. Now, I'm not talking about flex today. We're talking about grid. Watch what happens still. It is still like this. It is waiting for me to state how many columns do I want? How many rows do I want? Meanwhile, before I will do that, I would like us to get this grid item, this class, grid item. Okay. Then let's give it background color so that we will see how it appears. Maybe using brown. Maybe if I had margin for each, you would see how they will appear and you will see the space in between. Maybe let me add that margin and you see it, margin of about 3 pixels. I hope you are seeing the difference now, how it's appearing. The margin in between is showing. And this margin I get that is 3 pixels is all round. It is both left, right, top, and bottom. I would like to align the text to be on the center. Text align. Let's make it to be on the center. And if you wouldn't mind, increase the font weight, make it big. Font weight, let it be 600. Let's give it color. Maybe white or ash. Ash color of about ash. F1, F1, F1. Then let's increase this by giving it padding. Padding of about 1.5 rem, top and bottom. And then, okay, I said 1.5 rem. Very good. This 1.5 frame is all round. It's all round. So let's leave it at that. 1.5 frame is good. Maybe let me increase the font size. The font size should increase to about, let's use 1.5 rem still. Good. Very, very good. Now let's get back to the main that is holding it, the box holding this grid. Now, if I increase this size, you will see how it appears. It is just appearing like a block element. And if I'm adjusting this, it is just, it's also adjustable. So that if you are seeing this with a mobile phone, if you are seeing it on screen side, it will also be like this. One thing that is important while building your website is ensure that no element is hidden. So that not when you reduce your screen size to mobile screen size or tablet screen size, some part of your website will be hidden. You should resolve that. You should resolve that. It's not supposed to be so. Now, what we need to specify inside this main is to say how many columns do we want? And we do that by saying grid template columns. Grid template columns. You can say 1 FR, 2 FR, 1 FR. Are you guys noticing what is happening? I want to create 3 columns, whereby this one is small like this. The one in the middle here is bigger than this ones. So you see 3 of them, and every one of them is appearing very, very clear. Look at it on a bigger screen. Oftentimes, people do their header to be like this. You have this section on the left where the logo is. You have this section on the center where other items could appear. And you have this section at the extreme here. Now, why did I use this one FR? It means full row. So the FR I used here, I says 1. 1 full row, you should take the full row. It's just like when you say display flex and you say 1. So both the flex shrink and the flex grow, it's made to be dynamically resized. Dynamically resized, okay? Now, supposing I want to maintain 3 or 4 equal columns. 3 or 4 equal columns. Meanwhile, you must not only use this FR as measurement. You could decide to say 300 pixels, 400 pixels, and you are seeing 2 columns for now. And I want another column, maybe 300 pixels. You see the problem with this one? So this part is 300, this is 400, this is 300. So it no longer fills to the end. And if I'm resizing, it may not even resize. You see, some parts are hidden now. This is why pixel is not a good measurement for when you want responsiveness on your web page. Px, which is the unit for pixels, is a static measurement. Is a static measurement. Static, I mean, it does not adjust. It remains fixed. It remains fixed. It is even better that you use percentage. Percentage is a relative measurement. Percentage is the relative measurement. REM is also a relative measurement. EM is another relative measurement. You can make your research on this and get to know more about relative and absolute measurements. Absolute, a clear example is pixel, px. It does not adjust. It remains that 300 pixels you gave to it. It remains like that. Let me go for, supposing I say percentage and I want 25%, 45%, 30%. Last, one thing I should be calculating that all this things should give me 100%. So 30 plus 25 is already 55. 55 plus 45. Of course, you and I should know that is 100. So let me increase it so that we can see how it is. This is 25. This is 45. And this is 30. Now, let me resize and I get on smaller screen. Every part of the website is still showing. And you are seeing it that this part, this first part, is still smaller than this, still smaller than this. Such that if you maintain this, when you get to, even when you are working on mobile screen, which is about 480 pixels, your phone size is of this size. This is the way it's going to appear. Unless we begin to adjust using at media query. When you use at media and you get to this smaller screen, what people do is when it gets to this smaller screen, it should become full row and it should become one row, one column, only one column. No longer three columns, but one column. Maybe let me clearly illustrate what I'm talking about here. We say at media and I put the max width. So at 480 pixels, what should happen? I'm teaching you already responsive design so that you just have to know. These are the things you need to do. When our screen gets smaller to this 480 pixels, what should happen? I'm going to say the main should take, I will call the main again the way I called it before, main. So I'm no longer going to say display grid again. It has already been displayed grid. But what I want now is grid template columns. Grid template columns should be one full row. Now, let me resize that you see what I'm talking about. Okay, I have not specified it by saying um, maybe 100%. One column. And then it's not adjusting. Should be able to adjust. Okay, maybe I have not addressed it properly. Um, Let me first of all change it from here by saying I want it to repeat three rows of equal columns. Three rows of equal columns. This is what that gives us, three rows of equal columns. Now, supposing I come here and I decide to say, repeat one. Let's resize it and see what happens. So when it gets to 480 pixels, ordinarily, the column should become 1. But how comes it's not resizing? Okay, I'll find this out and get back to you. And apart from the fact that I added margin here, just like in Flexbox, without adding margin here, just like in Flexbox, grid also works here. Gap also works here. You see, added a gap of 10 pixels. You see the effect here. Maybe let me add background color to this main. And I decide to give it a background color of this. You may not notice it looking at my own page, but you notice it when I change it something like this. This is the effect of adding that to main. And supposing I decide to add padding to it and make this padding about 10 pixels, you could also see it show at the extremes. All right, guys, I think with this, we have taken a look at what this grid we can do with it. Now, supposing it is image that we decide to use here, just like in the previous class of Wednesday, we loaded images inside our divs. So you can as well decide to load image here instead of loading box 1. So I wrote box 1 here, not with any title, not with any tag. So as I was saying, you can decide to load image here. Normally, I already have some images inside this place. And maybe this is the image I want to load. You see it appear. But it is now very big, bigger than what? Okay, so I will decide to reduce this image. Normally, I might just use inline here to reduce it. Just say width about 200 pixels. See how the image appears. And the effect of grid, as I said earlier, this effect that is added here is also shown. It reflects other boxes that are adjacent to it. I'm referring to the height now. So with this, you could decide to style that dog or style that image the way you want it to be. However, one problem with using this pixel, as I already said before, is that it is static. It is a static measurement. A static measurement. All right. Let's leave this one here. We will still develop this project in a bigger way. I would want us to create another HTML file. Another HTML file. Let's name it. This time around, I'm naming it with capital letter, grid, and this way. Watch the way I named the first one, the way I'm naming the second one. Grid layout .html. This and the first one are not the same. Grid layout.html. Let me create the HTML basic structure. I want us to create somewhat a real life project here. So a real life project, I'm naming this grid layout real world project. So grid layout real world project. I'm going to stop this program, the one that is running on live server, so that we'll begin to run this very file. So I don't want us to throw away the other file. We'll still deal with it. We'll still deal with it. In this case, inside the main, I'm going to create, or inside the body, I will create a header tag, a main tag, and then footer. It's good you arm yourselves with this basic knowledge. It's very much important, because even if you are making use of any framework, even if you are going to be doing any other thing, advanced knowledge on web development, you must be talking about tags and these attributes. And these ones we are mentioning now are very much necessary. So you can't do without them. They are basic. Okay. So inside this header, I would like us to create the navigation bar. The navigation bar. Let me create a div here that I'm going to name as logo. Inside it, I will insert the file I want to be inside that place. And the location for this file is inside image. And the image I want, I think this watermark. You are not seeing the page anyway, because I've not loaded it on the live server. Let me close this one that is running. And then we can run this, open it with live server. You can see the website we are building. All right, so this is the way. Of course, I already told you before now, images, they appear as big as they are until you reduce them. So let me add using inline styling. Of course, I can address this from the CSS file. And for this very particular HTML file, we are going to style it using external CSS. So we need to link that external CSS file that we created. So link, we get the CSS and then grid layout. So that we will style all with that. So beneath this logo is the nav tag that I want us to use. So in this nav tag, we are going to have list items that will be nested inside anchor tags, so that when we click on it, it will open a related folder for us. I'm doing almost that thing we did in the Flexbox tutorial last week. Flexbox, whereby we created this Flexbox, giving us not this one now, but the one that we did on multimedia tags. Good, multimedia tags. No, I don't want to move that. So multimedia tags, we had header like this, whereby if you click on this, it loads you to that page. Okay, for this one, you could see we did it with anchor tag. Now I'm doing it inside div. I'm also trying to show you that this could also be done this way. So let's get into what we are doing now, grid layout. So inside this very first one, I would want it to be, let the user see home. He's not going to load us anywhere. So home, another li, anchor tag. It also not load us to anywhere. Career, another one. Let me multiply this times 4. Is 4 going to be much? Let's make it 3 more. So inside this first one, I want to create anchor tag that will also not load us to anywhere. Contacts. Then about, and final one. This is going to be account, both login as well as sign up. I'm embedded in that. Now, hence we are done with the style or what we want to do, the structure for the header. Now let's get into the main tag. The main tag, I want it to have two major tags. Two major tags. Or rather, before this main, I would want us to use aside for the sidebar. So let's name this sidebar. And then the main should have content in it. But for now, we don't want to write many content inside it. So content. And for the footer, let it just have the name. Footer. As it stands now, we are done with the structure. We might still add some other thing. Let's get to the styling inside grid layout.css. The first thing I would want to do is to ensure that the dotted line, the underline is taken off. So text decoration should be none, as well as the list styling should be assigned to none as well. All right. Another thing we would need to do is to say box sizing. Let's make sure it is contained inside a box. And most probably margin should be 0 and padding set to be 0 too. I think there's something I'm omitting inside this HTML part. Yeah, I'm actually omitting something. Please let us enclose all this inside a div known as layout. Maybe I name it as grid layout. Grid layout, a div with the name grid layout. So both the header and every other thing, they are enclosed inside this grid layout. Remember, I said we are aiming at building a real life project, a real world project. We shall still develop this project into something bigger, depending on what tickles your fancy in it. Now, I want to get that div, that dot grid layout. I don't know if that's what I named it as. Okay, dot grid layout. So for the dot grid layout, I would want to display it as grid. Display grid. And if you display grid without specifying the grid template columns or rows, then you are not really making sense. You're not really getting it. So I would want it to take a width. Normally, even without putting it, it already takes a width of 100%. So this 100% is also not static. Whether you are using mobile screen, the 100% is 100% of your small screen. Then when you are on larger screen, it is also 100% of your large screen. All right. Now, let us specify with the grid template columns. Grid template columns by saying we want it to be 1 FR and the other will be times 3 of that FR. So we're talking about 2 columns here. We're talking about 2 columns here. Now, there is also an important other thing I didn't mention in the other file that we created. Of course, I mentioned gap, so I'm still adding a gap of 10 pixels at this point. Now, the next thing I want us to talk about is, or to add, is grid template areas. Grid template areas, the area where this grid is covering. Now, this is the way it is written. Inside these grid template areas, we would want to put inside strings. When I say strings, I mean quotation. So here is header, header. And then we'll come out of it. The next one will make it to be sidebar, sidebar. You may not really notice the effect of what we are doing now until we add some other thing. So here, let's make this last one to be footer, footer. Both sides here is not going to be, this is going to be sidebar and then content. Sidebar and content. As I said, you may not be noticing any effect for now, but we'll still come back to it. Now, finally, I would want to let us also add grid template rules. Grid template rules. I didn't mention it in the previous one. So for this grid template rules, it's going to be 80 pixels, auto, and then 60 pixels. We're still getting at it. Let's tie the header so that the header will give us the expected outlook. Header. So I also want to display the header as grid. Everything we're talking about today is grid. Ordinarily, I could use flex to align this header to appear in rows as we did while talking about flex box. So in the grid template columns, I would want it to take just 2 columns. So the first one is 1FR, while the other one is how many items you have there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let it be 5FR. 5FR. Good. It's gradually taking shape. Then let the grid template area be header. Grid area. Since someone wants to ask question, so grid area.
Oh, you are just joining the class.
Can you speak up? I can't hear you. Since someone just joined. Okay. Um. Okay, Paul. Paul, you're welcome to the class. Here we are still talking about making the header to be displayed in grid. One thing is, if grid is getting you confused, if you're getting confused with grid, I wouldn't also advise you to give up, but maybe you could understand flex easier than grid. You can go on with flex in as much as you know the semantics, you know the right words to use. Because when talking about flex, you must talk about align item center, justify content center, you know, or justify content space around, space evenly, and so on. Okay, still in this header, I would want us to give padding to it, a padding of about, say, 10 pixels. It seems I'm used to this 10 pixels anyway, but not that. Let's make the height to be fit content so it does not overflow. And I would like to call the header nav, so that you also display it. Let me give it a percent, 100% header nav. Let it take a width of 100%. And then header nav UL should be displayed as flex. Here I'm combining flex and grid. So header nav UL displayed as flex. The items will now align. What is still waiting for? Is it not header nav UL again? Let's check. Okay, it is not inside UL. Now I see. No, but I expect that some of us should have pointed out that I didn't nest LI inside UL, but we'll do that now. That was an omission. So ensure you do your own now while I'm doing mine. So let's nest this UL or this LI, the list inside UL, so that you get what you want to see. So UL, LI. All right. In that case, it adjusts immediately, even though it's not yet arranged very well here. So ensure you do your own so that we'll be on the same page. Now, inside the CSS layers, we need to make that add align items to be on the center, align items, center it. Oh. Let's also give it a gap of about 12 pixels, and then justify content should be spaced around. Justifying content, let it be spaced around. Okay, you could see the items spaced out evenly, stretching from here to the end. But we still need to adjust it so that it fits appropriately and be in the same line with this logo. Okay, so apart from this, okay, sorry, let's get at it. The next thing I would want us to, let's finish up with the header anyway. I only wanted us to align this one so that we'll see the output of aligning this flex. Um, so for the header, I would want us to make it fixed. I would want us to fix this header. That is the important thing I want us to add here. So even though the next class, we shall be talking about position. Shall be talking about position in the next class so that we'll see it. We've used this position in the previous classes. So like in the last one, we talked about flex, and we're using it here again, but we'll have a devoted class, a class that will be devoted to position. So we'll see how it is used. So we want to make it fixed to the top. So by the left is 0, top is also 0. So 0 pixels away from the top, as well as 0 pixels away from the left, and then 0 pixels away from the right. So this is making it to stretch top, left, and right. Now let's add a background color to it so that we'll see where it falls. So background color should be about, let's use this color. I don't know if it is good. All right. You could see that with this background color, some items are already hidden. Some items are already hidden. So we need to bring those items out when we get to the point where we do that. What does we need to do here? We need to address these anchor tags. These anchor tags. Let me add something here to say margin top, so that comes to the center. Margin top should be about 5 pixels. Let me see what happens. Let me increase it to 10. It seems to be going below that. I just want it to be in the same line the same line with, all right, with the header. So I want to call header anchor tag. So if you want to get it properly, we say header nav ul anchor tag. However, you could just say header anchor tag. There are no other ones there that you want to get. So header A. What do you want to do to header anchor tag? Let's give it color. And then increase the font weight. Let the color be navy blue. Let me see how it is. It's not really obvious. I don't like it. Font weight should be about 600. Let me change the font family. And let's get any font family that is here. All right, I think that's okay. So let's make use of that one. You can as well get Google Fonts and then add it anywhere you want. Now, the next thing I want us to add in this our project, or let's get the aside. Aside is a tag that represents the nav bar, the sidebar. So we'll call the grid area and make the grid area to be sidebar. Grid area to be sidebar. And then let's make background. Either you say background or background color, whichever one, to be just a gray color. Let's say 888 is too much gray, but let me see. Let me use CCC. Still gray. Yeah, but it's a lighter gray. All right, so let's leave it at that. Now, let me get the main. You are still coming to the point where you understand where this project is tending towards. Let the main have background color. Maybe the same background color or maybe not, but let us not use the same background color. But it should be gray. Just that it should be, maybe ash 444. Let me see. This is too much. 333. Too much. DDD. A kind of looking the same, but not. I'm not trying to look for a darker gray. So let me get it here. Yeah, this ash 9A33 or whatever. So you are seeing my screen, and I hope you are following what I'm doing. Okay. Now let's add the grid area. Remember in the previous part when we said display grid templates area. So that's where we decided the names for these different grid areas. So this place is going to take content. Do you now see how this one came to the side? Because for the header, we said header. For look at it, let's go back so you see the effect. See what happened. This place is header. Sidebar is sidebar content. And then here is footer. You may not really notice what is happening. Supposing in this main, we have images inside it, and not just this content you are seeing. So that the things inside it would make the content to grow big. But for the sake of this work, let me give the main a height. You will notice that once I give this main a height, this sidebar will adjust to be of the same. It will adjust to be of the same size in height. So height, let it be about 120 VH. You now see how it's stretched. kind of looking good. Let me zoom the page so that you see what I'm talking about. Okay, so this work is just looking, and the way I did it, if you click on this, it's not loading you to anywhere because it is returning you to the same page. So that is the influence of that hash that I added to it. If you click on it, it returns you to that same page where you are. You click on it, it returns you to that same page where you are. So sometimes you see a website that is like this, and one important, you now see that this text, whatever is inside the main, is going under the header. Is going under the header. It will go above it. If I add Z index to this very one, if I add Z index, maybe of 2, it may not work. Okay, you now see it, it is working. It is going on top of this because I did not increase the Z index of the header. Meanwhile, it's always good to make your header have a very high Z index, maybe as high as 1000, so that no other text will come on top of it. You see, this is not going under it because I gave it a high Z index. I gave it a high Z index. So let me still comment this line. I don't need it. I just wanted you to see what could happen if I increase the Z index or reduce it. All right. Let's still have our page like this. Finally, let's get the footer. Let's get the footer. I would like to give it the same background as I gave to the header. Let me use basic. And let me add a padding of about 10 pixels to it. Lastly, or second to last, let me add a color to it, making it a white color. And the next thing would be to say grid template area. Let it be taking the assigned one footer. You now see it appear here. If the text is not on the center, we would need to center it. The text is not on the center yet, and it's not even bold. So let's get at it. I don't like this color. Let me use the same color that I have on the header. So that color, okay. All right. Font weight is 700. What else did I do here that I would like to get? I don't need a font family. I would like to increase the font size. Font size should be 1.4. I use 1.4 so you know it's not only 1.5 that will be used. Okay, and the next thing is now to bring it to the center. Text align center. Text align center. Gentlemen, gentlemen, I think we have come to the end of this class. It is now left for you and I to add things, to add content inside this project we've created. This is a template we've created. A template whereby we have this part here showing us the sidebar, and we'll have this part here showing the main content. And this was done using grid. This was done using grid. Talking about grid template areas, grid template columns, grid template rows, and all those things you already know before now. So I think The floor is open for question and answers now.
Sorry, excuse me, sir.
Yeah, so she go.
So this template now is what you build on when you want to do this have what's it called, menu on the side that you can scroll.
What did you say? I didn't get you, Sochima.
Like this template you just taught us now.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you clearly.
Okay, I'm saying this template you just showed us is what you build on to make this that kind of websites that you by the side you have your menu, your options, like where you can click, choose stuff, then you can scroll differently, Abby, with position.
Yes. Good. You are really making, you understand where this thing is going to now. That part where you said you can scroll them differently. These and both of them are scrolling together. Yes.
Yes.
Scrolling differently now because we've not made this sidebar to be sticky. You understand now? So that is what you know as
Yeah.
sticky position. So this will be taught clearer, made clearer in the next class, where we shall be talking about different positions we have. So you use sticky position to stick an element so that it begins to scroll when scrolling event gets to a certain point, and it stops when scrolling event gets to a certain point. So by that class, after the next class we shall be having, we'll be able to make this part to scroll differently from this particular content side. Okay. As this page is now, you could decide to load your images inside this place and still display the container holding those images as flex. So there is an interplay of flex and position and what and grid. There is an interplay of grid and flex. So use the one that works best for you as much as you also try to achieve what you want to achieve. Okay. So that is it.
Okay. Please, I also have another question before
So,
this Z index that you use to like bring stuff on top and Abby, that's mostly what you've used it for, the Z index to bring like a box on like on top of another box, kind of.
yes. Yeah, we use Z index.
Can you hear me?
I heard what you said. We use Z index
Okay.
to make an item that are positioned. Every element on our web page has a Z index of 1.
Oh,
Every element on the web page has a Z index of 1, so that all of them are on the same level. But if you want this element to come on top of another, then you increase the Z index of the other one, or you reduce the Z index of the one you want it to come on top. So when you give an element -1, you are making it less than it used to be. And it does not happen until something is positioned. So it is only when you use that position attribute that Z index works. Okay. So that is it for now. The Z index is useful to doing that.
so when you have like when you have boxes, like different boxes, and you're trying to, box shadow, you're trying to like make it more distinct from the web page itself.
When you have more what?
Like when you have boxes on your web page,
Okay.
like, and you're trying to lift it a bit from the web page, you're trying to make it distinct, make it stand alone from the web page. You understand, with that box shadow,
Okay.
that box shadow
Yeah.
So you don't need Z index then, because that has been like,
Okay,
the Z
okay.
index is not necessary. You just need the
So
box
it's
shadow.
not necessary. It's not necessary.
Okay.
Uh, Maybe you need it to appear on top of an image. Maybe you need it to appear on top of another box. That's where Z index comes in. But you could style it to be as if it is on top of another thing using box shadow, but you not use Z index. In another way,
Okay.
like the backdrop filter effect we used, you could as well style a box. It will have that backdrop filter effect. It will be like it is used that you use Z index to place it on top of that element, but it is not. Even though Z index could also
Okay.
come in there. I think we did it when we did the video part. The video that we used on the hero section of our page. Z index came in for us to make the write-up come on top of it. Yeah.
All right. All right. All right. Thank you, sir.
All right, guys. Thank you for paying attention. I wish you the best of the Easter celebration as we take up the class again from next week. And on a more serious note, try and submit your assignments. The assignments that I also give before the end of today for this and the one we did on Wednesday will still be assigned to each and every one of us on our dashboard. So please try to sit up, submit your assignment for deadline. Thank you. Have a nice evening.
Sir, please, before you go, can I see your this thing, the grid, the HTML file?
Okay. All right. Hope you got the first one we did. Though we didn't do much in that one, but I also showed you different thing we did.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you.
Hey, Bakirele, are you still here with us? Paul, seems you all got to the point we are at this moment.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here.
All right. All right. All right. Take care, guys. Enjoy your holiday.
Anyway, have a nice holiday.
Yeah, same to you. Thank you very much.